present the 2018 budget statement, financial and economic policy of the Akufo-Addo government. We have invited you here to share with you some perspectives on the direction of the economy since the presentation of 2017 budget and what to expect of the 2018 budget. We will, in this presentation, review the performance of the economy on the basis of the 2017 budget and proceed to indicate our expectation and predictions for the 2018 budget. Ladies and gentlemen, it is fair to state that the 2017 budget statement was filled with slogans mostly derived from the NPP 2016 manifesto. Government in the budget statement promised to undertake the following project. 1. Provide a stimulus package to distressed industries. 2. Implement Planting for Food and Jobs program. 3. Offer support to small businesses in rural and deprived areas in the country. 4. Ensure entrepreneur development. 5. Establish a Zongo development fund. 6. Construct a factory in each district. They call it one district, one factory. Construct a dam in every village in the northern, upper west, and upper east regions. They call it one village, one dam. Small business development, 9. And then give 275 million to a total of 275 constituencies. They call it $1 million per constituency. And finally, free senior high school. A review of the 2017 budget statement would have to be carried out within the context of these promises, as well as other fiscal initiatives. We would begin, however, by assessing the macroeconomic performance in the year under review. Let me start off with growth. I'm not sure the presentation. It's George, if you can look at the presentation. On growth, let me start off by saying that available data from the 2017 Article 4 consultation project, obviously from IMF, project an overall GDP growth of about 5.9% in 2017, driven by a 42.5% growth in the oil and gas component of the GDP, with non-oil GDP projected to grow at 4%, paltry 4%. The data also project an overall GDP growth of 8.9% in 2018, again driven by 64.9% growth in oil and gas GDP, with non-oil GDP growth projected at only 5%. On the other hand, the boost in projected growth levels of 42.5% in 2017 and 64.9% in 2018 is the result of the personal commitment of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to restore energy supply, power, and well, in this case emergency power, as well as to revamp and direct investment to the sector during his reign as President of the Republic. His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama administration secured the World Bank Partial Risk Guarantee, the PRG, that enabled ENI to consummate the commercial production of oil and gas from the Sankofa fields. The PRG made it possible to attract about $7 billion of investment of mid to downstream investment from the independent power producers, IPPs, and other investors. Besides Senegal, that used it for a bridge and a highway project, Ghana holds the record of negotiating the PRG for the largest single investment in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll take you to the growth table. You will notice in the growth table, very soon you will see it on the projector. You will notice in the growth table that in 2016, the overall GDP growth is 3.5. In 2017, overall GDP growth is 5.9. In 2018, the overall GDP growth is projected to be 8.9. But ladies and gentlemen, this can be misleading. It's important for us to segregate what goes into the overall GDP, to look at non-oil GDP and oil GDP and form a picture out of it. It should be noted that boasting of the 5.9% GDP growth in 2017 and 8.9% GDP growth in 2018 would be very much misleading, when the projected non-oil GDP growth of 4% in 2017 is lower than the realized non-oil GDP growth of 4.8% in 2016. While the projected non-oil GDP growth of 5% in 2018 is only 0.2% higher than the realized non-oil GDP growth in 2016. Thus, growth in the employment-generating sectors of the economy, the non-oil sector or the real sector, is projected to decline in 2017 and improve marginally in 2018 relative to the realized growth in 2016. We note from the table above that with the difficulties of gas supply leading to gas power outages, the NDC government grew the non-oil GDP growth at 4.8%, which is higher than the NPP's 4% in 2017, under the favorable conditions that can be attributed to investment made under John Mahamed's administration. We should also note that President Mahamed's administration did well to prevent Ghana from going into a recession, as was the case of some sub-Saharan African countries, in the case of Nigeria, for instance, you are aware. The dismal performance in the non-oil GDP growth shows the bankrupt in MPP's major economic policy stance. It is clear that MPP's government policy that professes to shift the focus of Ghanaian economy from taxation to production, as was stated in the 2017 budget statement, is reckless, regressive, and backfiring. Ladies and gentlemen, this is because they have resulted in various tax evasion and non-compliance in VAT revenues and shortfalls in revenue performance. Ghanaians are still awaiting patiently to see the manifestation of the prosperity that we were promised. The NDC, before leaving office in 2016, commissioned the Ghana Statistical Service to start the process to rebase the Ghanaian economy. The process is ongoing, and it's our hope that by the end of the year 2018, the process will be completed. Again, let me caution that the government should not be quick in filling the fiscal space that will be created as a result of rebasing with reckless expenditures that will not be growth enhancing. We also urge the minister responsible for finance and the Ghana Statistical Service to ensure the involvement of our development partners, particularly the World Bank and IMF, to enhance policy credibility and data credibility. Let me again take you from growth, and then now I'll go to revenue. Revenue. The National Fiscal Stabilization Levy was established in September 2013. In fact, in this case, I presented the bill to Parliament. And the chairman here, the chairman of the Finance Committee then, now the the Deputy Minority Leader. It was introduced in September 2013 to serve as an anchor to stabilize the economy, as at the time of stress in the economy. It is also a temporal tax with a sunset clause and is due to expire in December 2017. The intention was to encourage specific sectors of the economy to contribute to the economic stabilization program under the homegrown policy. Today, the Fiscal Stabilization Levy has achieved its purpose. Let me use this opportunity to thank the various sectors that contributed to the realization of these objectives. When we introduced the temporal taxes and other fiscal measures to correct the misalignment in the economy, not one that is self-inflicted as the free SHS, obviously without learning from the single spine pay policy that the same party inflicted on the Ghanaian economy in 2007 and 2008. We must dutifully honor our promise to Ghanaians, as we did with the National Stabilization Levy in the late 1990s. Therefore, we should kindly ask the government to act accordingly, as stated in the sunset clause. Ghanaians should not expect us in the minority to remain silent in the event that the government chooses to extend the levy beyond 2017 under the current budget. On page 17 of the NPP manifesto, the NPP promised to abolish the special import levy. The special import levy and the fiscal stabilization levy were both introduced in September 2013 to stabilize the economy when it experienced some setbacks. In fact, they were temporary taxes with proposed sunset clauses and therefore due to be expired in December 2017. The special import levy has two components, a 1% component and a 2% component. The 1% component was expected to yield revenue of about 70 million in 2017, with the 2% component also expected to yield revenue of about 500 million Ghana cedis in 2017. The NPP government removed only the 1% component of the special import levy, was obviously on certain selected tariffs only, conveniently. Ladies and gentlemen, let me state emphatically that despite the hype, the 2% component, which is still active, and contrary to the NPP manifesto promise, as well as the impression created in the 2017 budget, may I take this opportunity to again remind the NPP that under the original sunset plan, the 2% component is expected to expire in December 2017. We are therefore calling on the government and the Minister for Finance to effect the removal of the 2% component of the special import levy in the impending 2018 budget. The minority in Parliament will not support any attempt by government of keeping the same tax handle, obviously for certain reasons, because we believe it has served the purpose that it was introduced. They have effectively achieved their purposes and so cannot be treated as a permanent tax handle. Ladies and gentlemen, you will also recall, with reference to page 17 of the NPP manifesto, the NPP promised to reduce corporate tax rate from 25% to 20%. The 2017 budget statement did not propose any reduction in corporate tax from 25% to 20%. However, the Finance Minister and the Minister for Trade and Industry have at different times reassured Ghanaians that the government will propose a reduction in corporate income tax from 25% to 20% in the 2018 budget statement. We wish to remind the Minister for Finance and his counterpart, the Minister responsible for Trade and Industry, that Ghanaians expect a reduction in the corporate income tax rate from 25% to 20% to be included in the 2018 budget statement. It is our expectation that the government will follow through with the firm promise that they are going to see, and we hope that we are not going to see another 419 or a trickle situation. We don't expect that. We note the huge gaps that have emerged between projected tax revenue and what has actually been collected. In more specific terms, a shortfall of about 3 billion Ghana cedis in revenue was recorded in the third quarter of this year. We are told by the Vice President of the Republic on the 12th of September 2017 that customs revenue at the port has increased by 56% after the implementation of the paperless system. Unfortunately and surprisingly, the claim has proven to be untrue. Again, untrue. As at 30th September 2017, customs revenue was projected to be 1,192.23 million, but the actual outturn was 1,179.41 million, representing a deviation of 12.8 million Ghana cedis, an equivalent of 1.1%. So how can this be an increase of 56%? Unfortunately, once again, another untruth. The revenue shortfall has severely compromised government ability to meet critical expenditure commitments without heavy borrowing. The underperformance is attributed to exaggeration of ambitious revenue targets which were not accompanied by practical measures to achieve them. We expect the government to learn from this practice of over-projection of taxes and tax revenue because of their desire to fund campaign promises. This poor performance, which is self-inflicted, should, however, not become a pretext for government to impose additional nuisance taxes that will further burden Ghanaians, especially the poor. The intention to tax mobile money transaction must be aborted immediately. Since it constitutes a serious threat to financial inclusion and economic growth in Ghana. It is also regressive because compared to the relatively affluent non-core financial services that the NPP removed for relatively rich, this insensitive mobile money umbrella tax will seriously affect millions of Ghanaians who use their telephones to transfer small amounts to relatives. It is an indirect way of taxing transactions such as transfers of school fees and mobile monies, medical bills. In particular, the NPP must provide some relief to low-income families from this truck money transfer tax, I will call it, as this is nothing more than a backdoor move to reintroduce the taxes they removed last year. Already, the business community is wailing on heavy and cumbersome tax burden that they have been forced to carry by this government. Only last week, ladies and gentlemen, you recall that Shanti Business Association cried out to government to scrap the clumsy 3% VAT flat rate that was introduced and to reintroduce the 17.5% VAT system that existed some time ago. They rightly pointed out that the introduction of the 3% VAT flat rate has only resulted in double taxation, or in some cases we call it cascading, making them pay up to 20% in actual fact, and is leading to the collapse of their businesses. This vindicates the position we took as a minority when the 3% rate was introduced, but which was unfortunately again ignored by the managers of the Ghanaian economy. Ladies and gentlemen, similarly, complaints have emanated from importers who indicate that they have noticed astronomical increase in duty payment since the government took over. It is important for government to use the opportunity in the 2018 budget statement to address these concerns, as failure to do so will worsen the business climate, especially at the time that Ghana has slipped 12 places on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report. The deterioration is most unfortunate because around the same time last year, under the NDC government, Ghana moved up 13 places on the same index and was adjoined the best place to do business. The best place to do business in West Africa, ahead of Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take you to debt, the almighty debt. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President and the Finance Minister are yet to apologize to the people of this country for boldly asserting that they will not borrow when elected into office, following a clear breach of the campaign commitment. Our national debt has ballooned alarmingly within the 11 months under the President, Nana Akufo-Addo's government. At the last reckoning, the public debt has increased from 122.6 billion in January 2017 to 138.6 billion as of June, and is set to increase due to recent development to about 150 billion Ghana cedis by December 2017. 150 billion Ghana cedis by December 2017 from 122.6 billion. You will recall, ladies and gentlemen, that after the collapse of UT Bank and Capital Bank, the Bank of Ghana approved a purchase and assumption transaction between GCB and Bank of Ghana. We issued a caution statement at the time and promised to return to the subject immediately the government provide information with all on the transaction. To date, however, as in the case of Franklin Templeton bond, no comprehensive information has been provided to Ghanaians. Nevertheless, we did warn against leaving the original owners and transferring the liability to taxpayers as a fiscal measure. Indeed, our information suggests that the assuming bank, in this case Ghana Commercial Bank, will be receiving about 2 billion Ghana cedis worth of government bonds as an equivalent of, which is an equivalent of 1% of GDP to balance its assets and liabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, what this simply means is that the taxpayer, me and you, the taxpayer, me and you, households and businesses like any other business in every other home, will be paying Ghana Commercial Bank an equivalent of about 2 billion Ghana cedis for the collapse of these two banks. This amount will add to the existing public debt. Unfortunately, the Minister of Finance and again his counterpart, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, have failed to disclose this information to the public. and most importantly to the taxpayer who will eventually pay this liability. We are urging the Minister of Finance to make this information available in the budget to be presented before Parliament without fail. Without fail. We also decry the fact that those whose irresponsible conduct and mismanagement led to the collapse of these two banks in the first place appear to have been left, and the poor taxpayer already burdened with high fuel and electricity prices, and the general hardship is the one bearing the brunt. I think it's unfortunate. The recent failed energy bond, on which a colossal amount of 177.2 million Ghana cedis scandalously spent, is for all intent and purposes a public debt. And this view is shared by the IMF and the World Bank. When the NDC decided to introduce the energy sector levies, which for a bad faith, the NPP opposed and did not remove last year as a nuisance tax, but all of a sudden have decided to feast on it. The Mahama administration was very transparent. We came to Parliament and to get a law to support it. We expect the Minister of Finance to follow suit to table an agreement for UT Bank and Capital Bank bond. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now give you some projections on debt to GDP. The MPP inherited a grossed up debt to GDP ratio of 72.5%, with strong buffers instituted by an Act of Parliament. An example being the sinking fund, with almost a balance of $400 million, and the balances in the domestic debt restructuring account, the DDR, under the superior smart borrowing debt management strategy in place. Unfortunately, the state will be ending the year with debt to GDP approximately 73.6%. When the energy bond and the capital bank bond, UT capital bank bond, is added, the debt to GDP will rise to 76.8% from 72.5%. Ghana is gradually heading towards a peak. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be surprised that by end of 2019, we are declared a peak. It shows that despite their lofty policy in opposition, the MPP has undermined the conscious effort to slow down the rate of growth in public debt since 2015. And you agree with me, I have the graph, I can show you the graph. You notice that the rate of growth tapered in the course from 2015 downwards. But all of a sudden, within 11 months, you see the rate of growth going up. It's interesting. The so-called competent economic managers. It's very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now take you to expenditure. So far, we note that the finance minister has been silent on the MPP's promise to save the nation 3 billion Ghana cedis annually from the wasteful expenditure. That's the way he termed it. The reason for this silence is perhaps not far-fetched, even as he has failed to make the promised savings. He and his government have been engaged in very wasteful and scandalous expenditures. A case in point is the credible 177.2 million failed energy bond program expenditure. This expenditure represents 25% of the amount, 700 million, actual cash realized after the bond flotation. A huge 80 million is provided as administrative expenses, which is unjustifiable. Such costs as air ticket, hotel accommodation, per diem payment, etc. cannot amount to this. We once again demand a detailed breakdown of this expenditure. We also reiterate our demand for details to be provided on the payment to transaction advisors, which is quoted in the bond prospectus as 87 million Ghana cedis. Compared to what was spent on the previous bond flotation, this is extremely inflated, and we will push for a comprehensive inquiry in this matter. We demand from the Minister of Finance to provide updates on the current status of expenditure allocation to the following proposed policy initiatives. Number 1, stimulus package for industries. Number 2, planting for food and jobs, which appears not to have yielded any tangible dividends except a weak response to the devastating armyworm attack, which we fear could affect food security going forward. Number 3, support to small businesses in rural and deprived areas. Number 5, entrepreneurship development. Now that's number 4. Number 5, Zongo Development Fund. And number 6, One District, One Factory. We note that despite the plethora of assurances, including one from the President that 51 of the factories will commence by November, not a single factory has been built in any district in the Republic of Ghana. Number 7, One Village, One Dam. A single dam is under construction. Not a single dam is under construction under this slogan, despite assurance from the Vice President that work will start after the rainy season, which has long been over. I don't recognize that we are still in the rainy season, so we expect that something should be done. Number 8, small business development. Number 9, 275 million for 275 constituencies. $275 million for 275 constituencies under $1 million per constituency slogan. As the financial year draws to close, not even $1 has been transferred to any constituency in Ghana. In fact, in spite of the promise in the NPP manifesto to do so, and claimed by the Special Initiative Minister, Honorable Howard Kumsin, that a transfer will be effected in August this year. We are in November. He said August. $275 million per each constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, I am an MP and we have MPs here. Have you seen $1 in your constituency? Macroeconomic. Number 10, free senior high school. While the MPP manifesto promised to provide free SHS for all, only first-year students were admitted to the program in September. Over 560,000 students in the second and third year were unjustifiably excluded. In spite of all this caution to make adequate, provisions and preparations to avert overcrowding and drops in quality, the MPP implemented the program without making the necessary provision for adequate funding and infrastructure. 2 months into the program, government has failed to pay the second tranche of 20% fund, which is badly needed for the schools to fend for the students. Unfortunately, Ghanaian has also been aware with these horrifying images of widespread overcrowding, lack of classrooms and dormitories, forcing students to sleep in the open and to sit on cement blocks instead of desks. Sanitary conditions leading to dangerous diseases such as malaria and pneumonia, poor quality food and general squalor. This situation will no doubt result in terrible decline on quality and standard of our schools. Sadly, we note that not even a single 3-unit classroom block has been constructed by the Akufo-Addo government since it took office in January 2017. And we are unable to see how these challenges will be resolved in the near future. Unfortunately, number 11, setting up the development authorities, no clear poverty reduction strategies appear to have been implemented this year. Number 12, restoration of allowances. After a lot of purgatory, after all this purgatory that went into the launching of the restoration of the nursing allowances, several complaints have been received of long delays in the payment of the allowances. Private trained nurses have also in the past few weeks demonstrated over government failure to employ them. Agricultural trainees have agitated and demonstrated over the non-payment of allowances to them, and their demands have fallen on deaf ears as no concrete action has been taken on this matter. The College of Education Teachers Association in Ghana, CTAG, also pop up in arms over lengthy delays in the payment of monies owed them. The plight of newly trained doctors have come to the fore. The Ghana Medical Association has complained bitterly about government failure to employ over 250 doctors trained at a great expense to the state, unfortunately. Precious state funds that are wasted on reckless manner, like the 177 million field energy bond expenditure, can be channeled into meeting this obligation to bring relief to our people, instead of spending it on the things like what the NPP is doing as we speak. Finally, in 2017, the original and the media review budget, the minister made two major backpass changes to our fiscal regime. First, he added pipeline expenditure that the NPP had been compiling under the Giftments reform to shift to accruals accounting to the deficit. We expect the minister to continue the process and add equivalent amount to the appropriations bill in 2018. Secondly, in the media review, the governor clearly reopened the books to allow interest payment in January 2018 to be given another back pass to December 2016. In violation of the cutoff of 2016, in violation of the cutoff rules under the Financial Administration Regulation, FAA, still in force. Also, since in 2017, also end on a weekend, we expect the minister to include the full estimate for the December 2017 debt service commitment in the appropriations for 2017, and not to revert to the Financial Administration Act basis. We must stress that these two conditions will define our cooperation in the passage of the 2018 Appropriations Act. In conclusion, contrary to the President's assertion that the 2018 will create jobs, we in the minority believes that the 2018 budget cannot create the jobs because of the following reasons. One, how can you create jobs when the commercial banks do not have the needed liquidity to lend to the private sector? Ladies and gentlemen, the commercial banks in this country are in big distress. We thought the government was going to issue a bond to free the liquidity space. Unfortunately, to surprise you to know that the bond was not successful. So the commercial banks in this country were coerced to issue a bond in a form of debt swap. So the state issued a bond to the commercial bank in a form of debt swap. So they don't have liquidity. So if they don't have liquidity, how do you expect them to lend to the private sector to create the jobs? Impossible, Mr. President. I think somebody is not briefing you properly. Impossible. It can't be done. Number two, how can you create jobs under severe austerity, under fiscal consolidation? The budget deficit in Article 4, IMF Article 4, is projected to be 3.8. So ladies and gentlemen, next year, let us be assured that there is going to be unfortunately, severe austerity equivalent to 1983. You should expect that. How can you create jobs when you have mandated the central bank to pursue tight monetary policy? And number four, how can you create jobs when the rest sector, the non-oil GDP, is projected to grow in 2018, almost at the same level in 2016? We believe that, unfortunately, government economic policy for 2018 will bring about severe hardship, and Ghanaians must be well informed. A final reminder, we take advantage of this very important fiscal event in reminding senior officials and functionaries of the NPP that members of the NDC also pay taxes. It's important. Hence, they should refrain from dismissing or intimidating our members from occupying or applying for vacancies for jobs. They are also Ghanaians. In fact, they are Ghanaians and they pay taxes and should be treated as such. Thank you very much.